Welcome to another episode of TechRill. GitHub announced Agent Mode on 4th of April. Agent Mode right now available as part of Visual Studio Code. It's a complete transition the way we interact with the AI assistants. Till now we used AI assistants as a pair programming area. But with the agent mode, we are getting into the autonomous agents which can perform beyond the prompt. It can execute commands, it can think about the bugs and vulnerabilities, build the code and fix it as part of the implementation. So today we are going to explore how to use agent mode of GitHub Copilot for documentation. Especially we are targeting an API documentation using Swagger. Swagger is a powerful open source tool set that helps design, build, document and consume RESTful APIs. It provides a standard way to describe APIs using OpenAI specifications. In .NET projects, Swagger is often integrated using the sock buckle package, which enables real-time documentation and testing through Swagger UI. So let us see how our agent mode is going to help us detail Swagger documentation. Let us move to our API project. This is a simple real estate API with a set of controllers. Right now there is no specific documentation. And the model is captured under models and some utility functionalities for validation and verification. Some of them have the documentation, some doesn't have any comments or documentation as part of the code level. Let us move to the Copilot chat and select agent. There are three options. Ask is for chat, edit is for multi-file editing, agent is for autonomous agent execution in this particular project. I'm using, instead of GPT-4, let us go with the Cloud A 3.5 Sonnet. You can select appropriate model based on your requirement. And the detailed prompt for adding the Swagger documentation for all the controllers in .NET API project. Along with that, add the top level documentation for the utility and model classes. After that, we should be able to run the documentation using Swagger UI. So I have captured every angle as part of this prompt and agents start working on the same. It started with the first one where it needs to add the swag buckle ASP.NET Core. It's going to install that. For that, modified the project XML documentation. Now it's updated program.cs for configuring the Swagger to use this XML documentation. And continued the configuration on the program.cs to configure the Swagger as well. So the configurations are completed here. It specified the Swagger document with a proper title real estate API. And the details are configured. Now went to the property controller and start adding the documentation as part of the controller class. The property controller is rendering. You can observe that it's added the XML documentation on top of the class file and each of the methods, a detailed documentation got added. Now move to the next controller, that is a user controller. User controller is completed. The update is available here. Home controller is just a testing method. It's not a part of the main controller class. So we have the update on user controller and property controller and it moved to the entity level documentation. Right now this is the entity without any documentation as part of the code. Now let us see how Copilot agent is going to add the documentation. You can observe that it's getting added the documentation in a progressive way. It's went ahead and added detailed documentation for context, each of the field, what exactly it's doing, the constructor method, and if you have getter and setter, that is also covered properly. So entity is done, and it's moved to the utility classes where we have the validation. Validators doesn't have any documentation. Agent is updating the documentation for the validators now. Here, agent is acting as a peer programmer. You just passed one prompt. Agent identified the controller and the different other classes and went ahead and performed exactly what kind of feature we requested. On top of that, it identified the missing dependencies and able to configure that properly as part of your CS project and the initial program.cs file. Now at the end, obviously the agent is going to do a verification also. Here, if you noticed, it's identified there is a bug in isPalindrome method that needs to be fixed. It always returns true. And I haven't asked any bug fixes as part of our prompt, but as it's encountered a specific bug, it's going to fix that one, and it's verified any errors in any of the other files. It looks everything is looking good. And as done with the multiple iterations, asking whether I need to continue the iteration or I am fine with the current modification. I want to continue. Selected the continue, where it stopped, it's going to start from there and going to modify all the bug fixes. Any specific violations it's identified, it's going to fix it. So Copilot not only acting on your prompt, it's identifying the bugs and validation issues and going to fix that one. The remaining errors and validation it's checked. It checked all these files. There is no problems found. Agent completed the update in terms of implementation of the requested task through the prompt, and also it checked for any errors, and it's added the summary of the changes. It's added the documentation. All models are documented. Added the documentation to utility classes. Fixed non-nullable field, some kind of warnings available in models, and the bugs in the verifier class. Everything is done. Now from a Swagger documentation angle, there is a detailed description for all endpoint, request response model, parameter, everything is completed. So let us go ahead and build this project. .NET build. Build is completed. Let me just go ahead and run this project. And opening the endpoint. This is our home controller with hello kind of message. Let us see whether it's implemented Swagger properly. /Swagger gives the complete Swagger documentation, the real estate API, and we have a home with just a get. If I click on that, it's returning a string. Try it out. Execute, and it's a plain text returning, and you can see that the response is hello from property controller. That's what we specified as part of our home controller. This one, hello from property controller, that is the test API. And we have the other APIs related to property and user. Some of these are related to the underlying database. Right now the database setup is not there, so I may not be able to try out these things, but it's provided a detailed proper Swagger documentation for my entire API project. With a single prompt, we are able to complete the Swagger documentation for all the API classes, and on top of that, it's added the documentation for models and util classes, which helps the future enhancement or maintainability area. And it's even configured. It's not only documentation angle, it's configured required dependencies for my Swagger endpoint that is configured as part of my CS project and the program.cs. All is done with a single prompt. That is the power of GitHub Copilot Agent Mode. Go ahead and explore the documentation requirements, maybe using Swagger or any other documentation platform. Try it out today and share your observations.